In total, almost 142 million will go to low-income households. Lawmakers who supported the program said it will allow these people in Oregon to pay for necessities like rent and groceries. And while Oregon's economy has recovered quickly from the crisis, we know this recovery was not the same felt all across of Oregon workers. That's what a Senate Democrat in the state said. The one-time payments come as inflation hit a 40-year high. In May, state economists reported that 80% of Oregon workers now earn less, adjusted for inflation. And rural residents in eastern and southern Oregon, where average incomes are lower, will benefit from these payments. Stay wide, everybody. These payments are going to help so many people. Folks, what are your thoughts on the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI and SSDI? And do you think that President Biden is going to do something about this? Lawmakers across the country have approved a new round of stimulus checks. This new round of relief should begin to be paid out very soon in just a few weeks. And Congress is getting President Biden's spending bill, trying to get it passed by a new deadline. The three states, California, Delaware, and Indiana, are expected to make payments this month, while the city of Chicago is set to provide prepaid gas cards and transit cards. Eligible residents of California are set to receive payments under two stimulus packages passed last year. The first Golden State stimulus and the second Golden State stimulus. The state's residents will receive a check for either $600 or $1,200 in the first stimulus package, and a check for up to $1,100 under the second package. Some may receive lower payments under the second Golden State stimulus, depending on whether they qualified for the first Golden State stimulus. Californians who earn less than $75,000 will qualify this year. And in the state of Delaware, it's planned to issue a tax rebate by the end of the year. Individual filers are set to receive $300, and people filing jointly can get a rebate of $600. Delaware's Department of Finance told reporters recently the state anticipates sending the first round of payments based on 2020 return data. The Department of Finance also said they expect to make further rounds of payments. Any person who filed their taxes in the state of Indiana before January 3rd will be eligible. Paper checks may not be issued until July or August, but those who provided banking information with the 2021 tax returns will receive direct checks. And now, Democrats will continue their attempts to revive the sweeping climate and spending bill as the new congressional work period begins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'd like to direct my question first to Matt Seaholm, because I thought that Chairman in waiting, Kathy McMorris Rogers, raised some good points because of the problem we should have learned through COVID, that we need more plastics, not less. So, Matt, on these questions, there are two of the bills impose a 3-year moratorium on permits for plastic facilities, and that's to allow the EPA to develop environmental air quality standards. Now, we fully respect after 3 years of developing this, and we know it'll take 3 years to develop those, then they're going to go through a series of litigation. They always have. And then after the litigation's resolved, then we're going to move over to where actually these plastic manufacturers will have to have design and construct those facilities. So we could have a prolonged period of time. So my question is, how long do you think this pause could actually last?
Well, thank you for the question. That's certainly our biggest concern. Is it's considered a temporary pause, but because of the way it is written, there's no, for certain end date for that pause. In the meantime, we've got members who have to apply for permits every 5 years, and any expansion or new component of their facilities could trigger this temporary pause and ultimately result in potentially shutdowns or simply moving production to a different place. And that was one of the points that I made is that the moratorium is more likely to push production elsewhere than it is to actually stop the production of plastic.
Thank you. Now, the other is that I'm told that that at least 60 to 70% of the rules that were promulgated by the EPA under Obama have been overturned in the courts. And just this morning, the Supreme Court just did it again, said that the overreach under the Obama administration with the Clean Air Act needed to be revisited and turned back the Clean Power Plan. So, Matt, by imposing this de facto ban, is this just another example of the EPA overreach?
Well, I'll let you make that determination. But once again, our concern here is the incredible number of jobs that it does threaten. But most importantly, the supply chains. The point I made about shifting these supply chains.
Thank you. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Budd, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the chair. Chairman, thank you again for being here. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the federal government will spend an average of $545 billion per year, which was the estimate before rates went up. And these are on interest payments on the $31 trillion of national debt. So that's $545 billion is more than we spend on the Department of Veterans Affairs. So given that the national debt is currently at about 125% of GDP, with the Fed's commitment to tackle inflation, would that be limited by rising interest rates, making the servicing of the national debt even more expensive?
No, absolutely not.
Explain that.
No, we are, we're not in a situation where we need to consider fiscal questions like that. The U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path, meaning the debt is growing faster than the economy, but it's not in an unsustainable position. We can service our debt, and the markets understand that, and we can conduct our policy without thinking about questions of fiscal sustainability, and we do.
When your colleague, Secretary Yellen, was before this committee, she told me that federal debt, which was then about 105% of GDP, she said, quote, "That's not a number that I think is fiscally irresponsible." She also went on to say, quote, "If interest rates are zero, we could substantially have a higher debt burden." And in the formula in the following question, she alluded to Japan and the fact that it could be about double of where we are now, meaning about $60 trillion of debt if you use her math. So do you agree with Secretary Yellen that having a national debt of over 100% of GDP is fiscally responsible, given that interest rates can change and that historically low interest rates can't always be expected?
I guess I would say it this way. We're not on a sustainable path, and we haven't been for some time. And that means that simply that debt's growing faster than the economy. By definition, that is unsustainable. There will be a point at which it becomes a problem of servicing the debt. We're not at that point. We're not close to that point. But we will need to get back where revenues and spending are better aligned. We don't need to pay the debt down. We just need to have the economy growing as fast or faster than the economy over a long period of time, and we must do that. I wouldn't say any particular level. There is no level that I can point to where there's a lot of science behind it being a problem, but we know that the path is not sustainable.
It's interesting that you allude to growth being part of the solution. I want to talk about regulation for a minute, particularly since the Biden administration delayed oil and gas lease sales